Every artist tries to capture a moment or feeling in their chosen medium. And I've been thinking, what makes great art great? From iconic movie frames to video game worlds we love to inhabit, we tend to fossilize great art in our minds as these snapshots. But that's not the whole story. What if I told you there's a secret thread running behind all these great pieces of art that we don't really talk about too much? That's right. I'm talking transitions, the space between the notes. You know what I'm saying?
Holy shit!
I can't even talk!
We have lost our minds in the booth right now. It could not happen any better.
And not just moving from one idea to the next. No, I respect you, dear viewer, a little more than that. But moving in a way that adds depth, emotion, and continuity to the story being told. Transitions pull your world off the page. So join me down this rabbit hole and we will season our artistic broth with the sweet Szechuan flavors of transitions. All right, big boy Billy Hitchcock. Most of y'all would know him from being a revolutionary filmmaker, pushing all types of techniques, including the Hitchcock effect, wherein the camera operator moves contrary to the zoom function to create that weird wobbly effect. Well, he wanted to push things even farther and create a movie without any transitions or cuts. And that movie would be Rope. Rope is about these two friends who want to kill one of their friends to prove they can get away with it, and they gotta like hide the body at a dinner party because of like philosophy.
Bruh.
Anyway, Hitchcock would not be able to realize his dreams of a movie without cuts because film canisters just couldn't hold all that jelly in there. At best doing 10 or 12 minutes. So he went with the next best thing, and he would obscure the transitions. Now watch as the camera pans in tight to the back of this gentleman's suit, pop in another film canister, start from that same position, and then pan out, and it's like you've been in the room the whole time. He uses this technique again. Same thing. He's going to pan in tight to that suit, and you got a whole other 10 extra minutes of filming. It's like we never even left the scene. That's what's really brilliant about this is he's enhancing the message and the tone, the suspense of this movie. Will they or will they not find the body?
What's in the box?
So hopefully that gets in your head this idea of transitions being something not necessarily seen, but felt.
Holy shit!
As they say, like vanilla in a cake. You notice it when it's not there. And you're not quite sure what, but something's missing. That's what a lot of good transitions are. So really brilliant stuff by Alfred Hitchcock. All right, let's check out the next one. No, not that Birdman. We are, of course, talking about 2014's Birdman, directed by the great
Es Alejandro González Iñárritu.
All right, let's get into it. Birdman, one of my favorites with old saggy man Michael Keaton here playing a washed-up A-lister coming back to the stage to really show him what he's got left in the tank. Edward Norton plays opposite the young hotshot thespian. Here to really milk his sack here, folks. The camera is turning in this slow pivot as Edward Norton verbally eviscerates Michael Keaton while giving an absolute masterclass on what life on the stage is. Great scene. Not so much a transition, but shows a lack of transition where they could have bounced between with like reaction shots, but again, now the camera acts as almost this curious observer rather than this frame-by-frame storyboard telling of events. It's like we're there, much like a play, which is what Birdman is about. Connects to the thesis. Are you seeing what's happening? Specifics to the general. It's almost like folding back in on itself. And that's what makes it a brilliant technical detail for me, is it serves the overall message rather than drawing attention to itself. Well, let's zoom in here on some of the movie magic we see in Birdman as Michael Keaton stomps around in his underwear. Of course, after watching the Rope examples, it's obvious when they pan to that featureless puddle of water. They're able to swap lenses, perhaps, or f-stops, other settings, which might not seem impressive, but Birdman is a 2-hour movie with only 16 visible cuts. So you do the math, and it's almost like they're shooting these mini plays. So imagine you're at the end of those 7 or 8 minutes. It's requiring dollying. It's requiring actors to be in spots. It's requiring scene changes. Speaking of transitions, as luck would have it, while making this video, I went through some of my own. We switched studios, as well as I got a haircut. Very nice. And I think it's rude when people get a haircut and they don't tell you and it puts you in an awkward spot. So anyway, moving forward, we're going to see some of the new me. Roll the footage. All right, match cuts. And I'm going to spoil you with an all-timer. That's right. It's 2001, Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. We see these ape humanoid types clubbing each other to death. With the aid of technology, really, in this case, represented by this bone club. And one fellow in particular, wrapped up in a sort of murderous ecstasy, throws his bone to the wind. And in a perfect sort of visual metaphor pirouette, it becomes something out of science fiction, really. A sophisticated spaceship floating through the broth of space. And really, that is just amazing. I think you should appreciate that. And just love that. Love that half as much as I do. Because to the astute viewer, you would take in that struggle of technology and dominance is about to take place in a just much more futuristic setting. And perhaps with the use of technology itself.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Now I'm about to drop crazy game on you from skate culture. That's right, we had to do it. Spirit Quest by Colin Reed. You're going to see amazing match cuts here. Check out the Chameleon. It requires a lot of patience to put something like that together. And it's again and again in this video. Whether you're a skater or not, you'll just get juiced up on inspiration. The way he pieced this thing together. I'm sure it took several years of attentive filming and gathering footage. Yeah, really amazing work. I always watch this if you're hanging out with people passing around the visual aux cord and just blow minds a little bit. Spirit Quest, it's kind of like a skate movie shot as a nature documentary and a real masterclass in match cuts and all different types of filmmaking techniques. And that's sort of it for that section, folks. I mean, 4 glorious examples from film. What it means to transition, what it means to connect ideas, and how it can affect the message itself. So take heed, because we're about to go deeper, more interactive, if you will. We're going to video games. One of my favorite ones you might not even really consider, Mario Brothers, initial, original. That stuff. Right, you beat the first level, and then down the tube you go, right into the castle, down the tube you go. They didn't have to do that. You could have just started there. But those tubes provide a very convenient method of deployment of our favorite pepperoni enjoying plumber. Our own little Yahoo! It's embarrassing. You compare the pipes of Mario, which sort of give you this like claustrophobic, sucked in feeling. And of course, like later in the series, when we get into the third dimension, coming out of a pipe from an underworld, oh, brother, as the camera pans open and around, and you can kiss that sweet grass one more time. So I brought this video up to a friend of mine, and they said I should bring up some clunkier examples so we could better appreciate the elegant ones. So here we have a Skyrim loading screen. It's about 9 seconds, which by today's standards is insane. You could watch 47 TikToks, make 2 sandwiches, call a dead relative, what have you. Now, like, imagine we were on a date, all right? Start the timer. Just falling into each other's existential portals, knowing another person is reflecting our own consciousness. It's pretty wild. And it was a legendary game, of course, in the 2010s. But every time you went from the interior to exterior or vice versa, you were greeted with this sort of meditative, contemplative situation here. This is one of the earlier situations in the game. You got to hide from the dragon siege, run into the keep, right? And I mean, I can't do math that quickly, but that was about 7 seconds. And that is constantly peppering your experience and, more importantly, breaking immersion. It's pulling you out of the media. I feel the masters of transitions strengthen your belief in the media, your attunement. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, on the flip side, was famous for eliminating the loading screens between islands that other versions had been marred with. Okay, so in San Andreas, you can fly freely between islands, and the way it's rendering and loading, it gives you this impression of this infinite world. Reiterating what I love about transitions is that it shouldn't call attention to the media. It's vanilla in the cake. You notice it when it's not there. But when it is there, you just think this is a delicious bit of gaming pastry I'm sinking my phalanges into. Those fingers. So pretty cool, pretty mind-blowing when this stuff came out and we could really enjoy that. You didn't have any loading screen. You just truly felt like a madman on the run, a real O.J. Simpson, if you will. Ooh. Now, before we get into the third and final act here, I think it's important to dig into this prefix here, trans. We hear it all the time, things like translate, transport, transmorph. And this prefix means to go beyond, to go to the other side, which makes sense. Transport, you're sort of bringing it door to door. Translate, language to language. Transmorph, beyond the form. And we as people have seemed to have a natural, intuitive importance for this sort of thing. We even include transitions in some of our most important physical spaces, our spiritual spaces. You look at the narthex of the Christian churches, this sort of gathering area before the main ceremonial area in which even the unbaptized could gather. And I think what stands out here for our point of conversation is that it's an abrupt stop. You enter the church and you're in this almost holding zone before you can continue. And you can contrast that with the Shinto religion of Japan, where you have the famous orange torii gate. You often have many in succession, which allows for a gradual transition from the secular to the sacred. So the space marks the time in an interesting way, in a more cross-faded gradient sort of transition. Or you could move to the stories of Greek mythology, of course, crossing the river Styx, where you pay the boatman his fee, and you will transition from the earth realm to the underworld. And this one is an irreversible transition. So why are we so fixated on including this in our lifestyle and our spiritual stories, our media? And why do I care? So before we get into that, let's take a famous example. So check this out. While I was making this video, this just popped into my head as almost an example of all three in a way. So Spirited Away starts with this family on vacation. They kind of get into this little detour, and curiosity gets the better of them, and they decide to go under this sort of gate, this tunnel, this transitory zone. The main character here, surely follows along, so as not to be left behind. And then we can see the darkness overcoming the light, father leading the mother and child. Very nice visual storytelling here. And now they're in this darker place. We're seeing now the light at the end of the tunnel sweep in, very transitory. And then we almost have this narthex sort of space. We've gone through from the secular, heading towards the sacred, much like the Mario plumber. Now we pour out into the new world, something greater than before. So that constraint in that physical space and that blossoming out into the open is, I suspect, quite intentional on the part of Miyazaki here.
Dude, you get the best
Transitions.
ever, dude. Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them.
So you're probably wondering, what is all this for? Why do I care? If you're creative, this matters because our work isn't just in putting down ideas. We have to carry and draw connections between the ideas to form a larger phrase. There's more to it than just putting two things you like beside each other. Connecting your ideas is so much of where the identity of a piece emerges from. Everything is transition. We don't experience life in finished states. We experience it as a series of crossings. Doors, hallways, loading screens, drum fills. Less like a stamp collection and more like a storybook. When transitions are ignored, things tend to feel flat and artificial and uncared for.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
When transitions are respected, you draw less attention to the creation of the media and the fact that it was created, and you give the viewer, the consumer of the media, a chance to immerse themselves in it, which ultimately is our goal as creators. If you understand transitions, you understand rhythm, pacing, meaning. Everything is transition. That's why it's worth paying attention to the in-betweens. All just to make a larger statement within the same piece, an economy of information. Rather than adding more, we make meaningful connections between our ideas. And to me, that's exciting, truly exciting. It enhances my appreciation of any medium to see the seams fade away into meaning and emotion. So the next time you think you really have a masterpiece on your hands, consider what comes before and what comes after. Thank you.